Hey, thank you for joining us. This is Amanda Montalvo. She is an integrative dietitian and functional practitioner that runs Your Non-Toxic Life, a blog, nutrition consulting service, and Facebook group that helps women detoxify their minds and bodies and balance their hormones. Amanda started off her education nutritional in nutrition a traditional way, but after dealing with her own health problems of getting off of hormonal birth control, she quickly realized the value of functional medicine. After healing her acne, balancing her hormones, and learning the value of her menstrual cycle, Amanda found her purpose to help women create a body in balance and not settle for anything less. Amanda, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the vlog. And how are you doing today?
I'm good, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. I'm excited to dive in and share more about your story and talk about fears and how you've overcome them and tips that you have for the women listening. And so let's just dive in. And why don't you go ahead and share something that's interesting about your life?
And I was thinking about this a lot, and I'm like, oh, I feel like one of the most interesting things, or even like I forget with myself how crazy it is that I've lived in 3 states in the last 2 years. And I'm someone that's like from Connecticut. I lived there my whole life. I never moved. My husband joined the military, and we started moving all over. In the beginning, we're settled for a little bit now in Texas. But I never thought I would live in Mississippi, Texas, and Connecticut all within like a year and a half time frame.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys, are you staying in Texas for how long do you think?
Probably maybe for 4 years, but now he's doing special operations, so maybe not. We might move again sooner. But it's good for me because it forces me to not be like super attached to things, which is, I think, like certain outcomes and things like that. It's really into plan. I think it's super important to plan for the future and have goals, but it also forces you to be flexible and not like freak out when things don't kind of go your way.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, a lot of people get stuck in like, well, this is where I need to stay. This is it. And we kind of put roots down everywhere. And people get really attached to their things and where they are located. And I love that you're like, well, we don't really know, and that's okay. And I guess that's the military life. You got to expect that. So that's really cool. Yeah, Mississippi. And what were the other ones?
Texas. And then now we're in Texas, but I'm from Connecticut.
From Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, awesome. And thank you for your husband's service. I love that, he wanted to go in the service. And didn't you tell me that was something that he's always wanted to do, but didn't really want to tell you about it at first? It was like one of his dreams to join the military.
Yeah. So he was like, we were both kind of like not super happy with our careers, but he was like way worse off than I was at that point because I had kind of started making moves because I knew, okay, I wanted to get into this functional nutrition space. I wanted to learn more about it to help a lot of my own health issues. So it was like easy. I could go back to school. I could do all these things. Not easy, but the path seemed very clear to me. But he was afraid to tell me that he wanted to join the military because it would change my whole life, right? Like for both of us, it doesn't just affect him. Whereas
Right.
like when I make a career choice, like, yeah, it can definitely like have like an impact on him, but my job's not forcing me to move every 2 to 3 years. So that was
Yeah.
definitely like a scary thing and a hard thing like for us, but it's definitely not my personality type. I love my family. I love being home and stuff like that. So that was hard, but it's been cool to like travel and see different places and it forced me out of my comfort zone right when I was like really diving deep on this own journey that I was going on. So it was like perfect kind of timing.
Yeah, I love it because it sounds to me like you really inspired him to just kind of own up to what he wanted out of life. And the fact that you were going after your dream, I feel like it made a spark go. And he's like, well, I've always had this kind of dream of getting in the military. And I know it sounds crazy. People don't just always want to do that. But the fact that you guys support each other in your dream is of doing like what you want in the world is like so amazing to me. I just love that.
Yeah, you're never going to know how something's going to turn out anyway, right? So I'm like, just do it. I mean, he was 31 when he got in. So he like started the process a little bit before that. And I was like, who even knows if you're going to get in, you know, like you might as well try. Cause it's like, that's older. That is a lot older to join. So, and he has like some like health history stuff with like his knee. So I was like, I don't even know if you're going to get in. So you should just try and we'll figure it out. And that has basically been going on in our lives for the last like 3 years. Basically, we're like, okay, we're just going to see if this works. And at first it was like so stressful because I was not used to it. And now it's like forced me to be like, okay, you're not going to know everything all the time. You know, I think we never really do, but when you have a more like steady job and like you live in a specific place and you own your home, like there's just a lot more what you feel like you can like predict the future a little bit better. And then when you take that away, you're kind of like, oh my God, this is scary.
Yeah, but you guys are figuring it out. You know, like you said, you're just kind of taking what you can and kind of pivoting with how you're going about it as it's happening, because life's just too short. You're like you said, you never know if you're going to get in. Maybe you won't, maybe you will, but you don't know unless you actually put the foot forward and give it a whirl. So yeah, why not?
I know. I love that. Do you listen to that podcast? Why Not Now?
No, I think you told me about that.
You should. Like right up your alley.
Okay, well, I'll have to look at it.
I'll send you a link after, but
okay, cool. Sounds good. Awesome. So, okay, let's talk about fear a little bit. Obviously, we're already doing that. So tell us a time like in your life that was significant that fear was holding you back into living your life fully.
I think like when we first made that move to Mississippi, that woke me up to being like, okay, so what if you don't keep doing the job that you're doing, right? Because it's like I was working as a nutritionist for this healthy meal prep company. They're great people, but I was like, well, what happens now? Like if I can't keep this job? And then I was able to keep it. And I'm like, okay, but am I really happy? Like it basically just took me out of my typical day-to-day and it put me in this whole new environment. And you know, you get taken away from like your family, your friends, and you're just literally by yourself. And you're like, oh my God, like you really get to know yourself. You get to kind of see like, I realized like, okay, like I really value working from home. This is something that I don't want to like give up. And I knew like, I also realized that I'm like a lot stronger than I realized. And I don't need to depend on other people. Like I've always felt independent, but I've always kind of like relied on other people for like stability and things like that. So I learned that like I do not require other people. I can completely be independent on my own. And like even when it comes to like my health and my happiness, right? Which I think it can be really hard at first because you're like, you know, your friends and family, like, yeah, they make me super happy. I just spent so much time with like my family. It was great. But it's also like, if I can be this happy with just my husband and my 2 dogs, basically secluded from everyone in a new place, we only have 1 car. We're getting another one when he gets back from deployment. But like, you know, like for like 2 years, it's been just like us in like a very limited and like making hard choices so that we could have a better future and so that I can do the job that I want. It really showed me that, you know, you're stronger and more independent than you realize or than maybe you have ever noticed before. And it just kind of strips you down. Anything you're afraid of is going to come up. Anything that you are like insecure about, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of, I was in a weird place and I did so much reflection, like journaled every single day, lots of time outside, which I like want to get back into, and just like really thinking about like, what do I want? And like, how can I help people? And that's where I was like, got obsessed with, okay, I'm only going to work with women. I'm not going to take clients just because I need them, you know, like it really kind of helped me come into like my own.
Yeah. And it's given you a base of like, okay, now I'm thinking about what I want. Now I have to hold true to that and fill the space with the people that you want to work with. Because like you said, you know, you're working with that other company and you found that how much you loved that industry and those kinds of things. But if anything changed in that job, well, you can't take that with you. If you move to another place, you can't take that with you. Starting your own company and like stepping out on your own, it's scary and it's a lot more work, but it's worth it because no one can take it away from you. You get to decide when the stop points are of your whole business and what that looks like for you and your husband and where you go and like all those things, it just goes with you. So yeah, absolutely. Even the fear of that is it's a fun fear.
Yeah, doesn't feel fun at first. And then even now it's like, you know, I'm finally going to be 100% working for myself and like just taking on more clients. It's like, it can be overwhelming and thinking about
Yeah.
like, but I'm at this place where I'm like, okay, I know I've helped so many women now. I know that I can do this, but it really forces you to look at yourself. Cause it's like, what am I helping them with? A lot of it's like, you know, self-care and taking care of yourself. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people think self-care is like face masks and a bubble bath, which I'm 100% on board with, maybe with a glass of wine, you know, like I'm totally cool with that. But it also means like maybe going to bed a little bit earlier so that you can get up and work out or have some me time in the morning. A lot of my clients have kids or they have to go be at work at a certain time. It's like, it also
Yeah.
means making your food and stuff like that. And that means that like, I have to stay really on top of it for myself. And, you know, we go through different phases of life. Like right now, we're just talking about how we're like selling all our stuff and moving into a tiny house. I
Yep.
could easily be like, I'm too stressed out. I have too much going on. I'm like not going to, you know, worry about like food prep and eating and blah, 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 and like working out. But instead I'm like, oof, this is a stressful time. I need to like double down on all this stuff. And so it's been a really cool experience, like helping other people do that. And then just it forcing me to be like, you really need to have it together because these women are looking to you, you know, for advice and for real advice, not just like, here's what is a good thing or here's what you should eat for the next like 30 days,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. It's like, here's how to live a life like this forever.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a quick fix. You're showing them that it's a lifestyle and that you're walking the walk and talking the talk. So I love that. You're not just giving them advice, but you're showing them and doing it with them and knowing that what really works and how it is stressful. And so you can be really relatable because you have a lot going on and a lot of things change and it can change often. And like you said, the deployment date for your husband has changed
Yeah.
and you're just like going with the flow. So, I mean, that makes sense. I love that. So when fear was holding you down, and where were you mentally and how did you feel about yourself when that was happening?
So for me, like when like fear comes up, I typically immediately start to feel like insecure, and that's when like all the self-doubt comes in, right? And I think that's probably for a lot of people, but that's
Yeah.
when I'm like, oh, like I second guess every decision that I make. And usually I'm super stressed. And so then, you know, you're in this state of anxiety, you're not sleeping as well, you have like hormonal imbalances, your period will probably be terrible that month, you know, it's
Yeah.
like all these things add up. And so that's when that stuff creeps in, I know like, okay, like I have mantras, you know, and that might sound silly, but they work and they really do rewire your brain. And at first it doesn't feel like they're working, but it's so basically like what I try to do is have like a pattern interrupt. And I had this woman in my Facebook group the other day, soon to be podcast 2019 at some point, but we
Whoop,
talked about
whoop.
manifestation. And she's like, basically when you're manifesting and you're trying to set things up in your life, like the tools that you're using, like crystals and Palo Santo and essential oils or anything that's going to like, what it's doing is it's interrupting that pattern. So when things start to get really hard and you're doubting yourself, or you have lots of fear or like anxiety around something that you're trying to achieve, you do something like you pick something. I like essential oils and I love burning like Palo Santo. I have crystals all over my office and stuff. Like they're behind me too, but I like having that stuff around to interrupt those thoughts, right? And I like to have the mantra on hand because you can say that to yourself anywhere. I could be like at the airport, you know, and I could be saying it to myself in the head. My head doesn't really matter. So, or at the gym, I feel like a lot of stuff comes up at the gym because I'm finally quiet. I'm not on the phone. I'm not emailing. I'm not like looking at social
Yeah.
media, and all of a sudden I have all these ideas and then it's like all these thoughts. So having like that mantra you can turn back to, or like an essential oil or a crystal or whatever it is that makes you feel good, to interrupt that pattern of like, oh my God, what's happening? Is this right? You know, all this self-doubt, it really helps like break that up. So when I do get super stressed, and like during that time, like when we were moving and I was trying to do a career change, I mean, it's just like self-doubt city. It's just terrible. It was like so hard. And I mean, it really like impacted my health and stuff too, that amount of stress. So having those little things has been really helpful.
Yeah. So when you say mantra, is it like a phrase that you just always would use, or do you use different ones or the same one?
So it's usually just like a short phrase. It's usually like a sentence, like I am something or like I have something. And I usually tell people to write their own because what if you don't write your own, sometimes it doesn't feel real to you, right?
Yeah.
So you like if it's maybe it's like I am successful or like I'll do like I am calm, I am at peace a lot. I have a lot of like money mantras right now because that transition to working for myself is absolutely terrifying. And one of my biggest fears that comes
Yeah.
up is money. And people don't talk about this. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like my parents never talked about money. You know, they were always like very good with their money, but they never really talked to us about it. So I have like all these issues around money. My husband
Yep.
hates talking about money. And so, and I do too, because no one ever talks about it. So I have lots of weird things like fears around money that will come up
Yep.
and that I let dictate a lot of my life choices for a very long time. And I think they just like really negatively impacted like, you know, I probably, who knows, maybe I would have started working for myself sooner if I wasn't so concerned with having a consistent paycheck or feeling like I wasn't good enough to do those things because I'd never earned my own income by myself.
Right.
So having like mine, I love the one, it's like, money flows freely and easily to me.
Yep. I actually say that one to myself every day.
Yeah, because it's like if otherwise I start to think, oh my God, I need to go get like a 9 to 5 job in like a hospital somewhere or something. So that's definitely like a mantra. I also
Yeah.
like to use them for things that I'm trying to create like habits. So like
Yep.
I have a really hard time sitting down to eat a meal, and you're probably like, Amanda, you're a nutritionist and you tell people to relax at their meals all the time, and I do, but I have such a hard time with it because I pack my schedule, and that's something that I'm working on for 2019 is like I actually schedule myself a lunch and like
Right.
breakfast and dinner's easy because my husband's home, but when he, you know, when it's just me all day working, I will just like eat and work and it's so, or not eat and it's so bad. And so like I'll be like, I am an intuitive and calm eater, or I eat without distractions. And when you say these things all the time, eventually when you go, like if now when I go to eat, what do you think pops in my head? I eat without distractions. I'm like, then why am I standing at the kitchen counter eating? You know, so it rewires as part of your subconscious and helps you make better choices and like feel like you can do it. So mantras are, I think for fear especially, like mantras are really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do the same thing. I call them affirmations. That's why I was like, let's just be clear about what you're calling a mantra. So I love that you
Oh
said
yeah,
that
whatever, what
differently.
affirmation, mantra, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I do the same thing. I have some in my bathroom. I have them on my door, my studio. Like, yeah, absolutely. I think they are powerful. I actually do them with my 5-year-old daughter before she goes to school every day too,
Oh,
so that she feels confident going into school because she was scared for a while. So they work.
that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean everyone can do them. I think everyone needs to, but um so when you break free from your fear and move into new directions, sometimes we have relationships and friendships that change. So obviously you have a lot like you moving and all those things. So how did relationships and friendships shift or change in your life? Did that happen to you at all with moving through your fears of, saying you want to do your own business and like all those fearful things that we were talking about?
I would say like my relationships changed in a lot of ways. And like until you asked me that question, I hadn't really thought about it. So that was like a really cool thing to reflect on. But I would say like my family relationships got stronger, but I had to pay more attention to it. So I'm like I can easily work all the time. I like to see people like
Yeah,
in person that I care about. I'm really bad at like texting because I
right.
just, if I'm not working, I don't want to be on my phone. So I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to answer back to your social media post or your text because I just don't want to be on my phone. Um, so I realized that, but the relationships that got stronger with friends were the ones that like my friends that were also like really ambitious. So like a couple of my
Yeah,
friends own their own companies. So it's people, I just noticed that like I could no longer have like mindless conversations, if that makes sense. So it like I just needed more as I continued to grow and break past my fears. I needed more substance from my relationships. Obviously, like when you're breaking past your fears, you're uncovering a lot about yourself. And you like sharing that with your partner is not easy. You know, it's like, I would like write my husband letters because I couldn't like say it in words, you know, I'm like, I just don't know how to say this to you. Now it's like so different. Like we can easily talk about it, but because when you're going through stuff, then it makes other people look at themselves. And I'm like, I don't want to make you feel bad. And this has nothing to do with you, but like, here's where I'm at right now. And here's like what I need. And that was definitely super hard to do, but our relationship is amazing. And, you know, he's obviously like, we both were going through a lot of fears together, which I think made it easier. Like joining the military at such an old age, he got washed out of special operations the first time because of his blood work. And now he's like going back for it. So he still has a lot of stuff he's working through and getting past. And like, I'm doing the same. So that really helps because we can talk about it. Like I can say like, oh, can I really do this? You know, and like, he'll say the same thing. And so that has been really helpful. That's expanded our relationship, but I can easily see how something like that could like really hurt a relationship if you're not careful and like mindful about it.
Yeah. And I mean, what you're saying to me, like, it sounds like communication, right? You're whether it's talking about it or writing a letter, which is a great idea. Especially because that's probably how you guys will communicate a little bit more, when it's fun. And, I think that's communication is just really important, especially when you're making such big changes in your lives. And, I love what you said about, you know, the ambition and the people and not having the mindless conversations, because I felt the same way about that. I think that's absolutely holds true. And it's not that you want to like ditch people, but if they're not supportive in moving in a positive, more growth kind of way, then it's negative to you and it's not good for anyone.
And when you're like working towards becoming a better person and bettering yourself, it takes energy and it takes work. And so if you're also spending time with people that are sucking that out of you and are being really toxic, it like it takes you, like you take a bunch of steps forwards and it's like all of a sudden you're taking steps back. So that's why, like, you know, every time we moved, it's like, yeah, could I go to like the spouse meetings and meet other spouses? And like, I would go the first time, but if I didn't meet someone that I really connected with, I'm like, I'm not going to come here just because I'm supposed to come here because I'm a military wife. I don't care. You know, like, I'm not going to like try to be someone I'm not. If I met someone that was like totally on the same page as me, we would be friends. It'd be great. But that I like, unfortunately didn't experience that. But I'm like, at first I used to feel guilty, but now I'm like, I don't care because I have to like be careful with where I put my energy, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're very aware that, you know, I don't have to do that just because the other military wives are doing it, which I've heard great things about military community in that kind of way. But if it's not what you need at that time, like, absolutely step away from that and not do it. So I love that you see that as either I take it or I leave it. And if I leave it, then that's totally fine.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sure it'd be different. We're Air Force at an Army base. So I think that if we were at an Air Force base, there would be a much bigger group of people that we could meet. But because it's like a small collection of Air Force people at an Army base, it's only the weather group. It's way less people to like choose from. I don't want to say choose from, but like, you know, to like make a friend, like to choose friends. So like that definitely impacts it as well. When we were at the Air Force base, the last one we were at, like I had friends there, you know, and it was nice, but I'm like, wow, going to like a smaller community, it's hard. And we don't have kids and we're a little bit, I wouldn't say we're older. I think we're very young, but we're like older in the military sense and we don't have kids. So it's like, we kind of stick out a little bit, but.
I like it though. That's so fun. It just shows like, don't give up on what you want and what you plan to do with your life and how you want to contribute. So I like it. So what compelled you to jump ship from, you know, saying I want to make my own schedule, I want to do my own business, I want to be able to transition, do all these things. What compelled you to jump ship from that fear of, you know, all the other things that were going on in your head and what other people might have said?
Yeah. So I feel like I just got to this point and I'm sure that you can relate, maybe not, that I was like, I cannot, like, there has to be something better than this. And it's like, some days you kind of feel like, oh, I can endure this, like for a long time, I was like, this isn't that bad. Like, I get a consistent paycheck. I work for a flexible company. Why would I leave? Right. But then like the more in tune you get with your priorities and what you really want in your life, and like the more women that I work with and help, and like they make changes and it's like amazing, the more I'm like, I'm not living in alignment with myself. And it doesn't feel good. It like feels like you're not like, I felt like I was lacking integrity, because I'm like, I don't want to be like half in with this company. Is it okay? Are they still fine with me? Yeah. But like, is that really the kind of person that I want to be? Like, is
Right.
that even though, yeah, I want to work for myself, but if I'm helping another company, like I want to really help them and I want to be
Yeah.
excited about it. And so I just felt so out of alignment and like icky. And I was like, I cannot do this. And as soon as I put my notice in, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And even though it's definitely scary, like every single day, because there's nothing that's like known, everything's constantly changing, and I have a lot of changes going on in my life right now, it still feels better than like this unknown of like, well, what if I did decide to do that? Like, can I do it?
Yeah.
And just like doing something and like wanting something else. Like I did it for so long that I was like, oh, I cannot, this is exhausting.
Right. I mean, the what ifs are way harder than I tried it and it didn't work. Or I didn't, I can change this. I mean, whether we are quote unquote failing at something, or we're succeeding at something, or it's turning out the way we thought or not thought. I mean, we're learning lessons regardless of that. But like you said, the what if, I mean, nobody wants to be like, what if I would have done that? No, you want to give it a try and say, well, I did it. I did my best. I gave it my all. I worked through it and it wasn't for me. I figured out it wasn't for me. Well, at least it's the deciding and the knowing.
And I think like really trying it, because for a long time I was trying to like build my business and work for that company. And it's like, you can only go so far, because all of a sudden I found myself like a year and a half ago exhausted. I mean, I was having like crazy adrenal hormonal issues. I was basically one of my clients. I was like, this is insane. Like, what am I doing to myself? And feeling like, you can try something, like, especially if it's like a career thing, it's like, try it while you're working at your current job, make it like a side thing,
Yeah.
but don't feel like if it doesn't work because of your current circumstances, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work like if you change them. So like for me, it's like a hard time. Like I have like they're both creative things and they're both working with people. So they're both very tiring, and they fill me up. They give me lots of energy, but it's like you can only do so many client calls every day, and then like also try to brainstorm what you're going to post on Instagram, and also like, try to be a wife and talk to your partner when they come home. Like you can only
Yeah.
give so much. And so I think keeping that in mind for anyone that's like, well, I want to try something, or I've kind of tried it and it didn't work, so now I'm not doing it. It's like, it could just be that you just don't have enough to give to everything.
Right. And that's true. We just can't fill from an empty cup. So if you give your all to one thing, you can't give anything else to yourself or to anyone. So yeah, absolutely. So that leads me into advice. So what advice would you give to the viewers that are listening to, fear and stepping through them? What advice would you give to them for overcoming or pulling through the fear?
I would just say, like, I'm like a very comfort zone kind of person. So from like, if you're like that and you feel like you have lots of self-doubt with your abilities, like when it comes to making a change in your life or trying something or whatever it is, I would say try to get out of your comfort zone, even though it's probably the last thing that you want to hear. And you're probably like, oh, like everyone says that. But when you do it and you actually get out of your comfort zone, I mean, like I used to never want to do videos. I literally do like one live a week at least. I just filmed a bunch of videos and made this whole online detox program. I mean, I'm so comfortable behind the camera now. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And I used to like really hate my voice. I don't really love listening to myself, but now I'm going to make a podcast. It's like, you have to at least try to get out of your comfort zone, even if it's like,
Yeah.
and I would say like little things. So like, I think it's that you're supposed to get like you're like 3% outside your comfort zone, or a very small amount.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like a huge change, because
Right.
usually
You don't have
that,
to jump off a plane or anything every day.
yeah, it makes you want to revert back. But if you do like little things to get out of your comfort zone and even just get out of your routine, because even if you feel like you don't have a routine, like you definitely do, it just might not be one that you love, or that's like super great for you. Like just getting out of that routine. If you like want to start working out, but you sleep in every single morning, or like have like a super slow morning, or you're one of those people that just like gets up and starts, like you're on your phone, you're answering emails and you're working, it's like change that. Like do one little thing. Like maybe you make a rule that you don't look at your phone for the first hour of your day or something, like some little change to get you out of that comfort zone. And that makes you think. And then that's what's going to show you like, oh, I changed something and I survived, or like I changed something and that was amazing. Like it might be good or bad, but either way, like you're going to learn about yourself. And until you do that, it's just going to be so hard to like get past that fear.
Right. And like you said, like, getting out of your patterns and your routines and stuff, it really just opens up the space, I think, for newer things to come, newer ideas. Like you said, it just gets you thinking more about, the fact that you're not doing it, you're thinking about something else. You can't say yes to something and not say no to something else. It's kind of just all goes together. And it opens the space more when you disrupt it, like you were talking about earlier too. So I love that. So now that you really have the tools, like you have the tools to be able to move through your fears and, take them little by little and move through all that stuff. So now that you know how to live fearlessly, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So this is like a hard one to answer. So I will say like career wise, I see myself, just being completely like financially and scheduling free. So like I can work when I want to work and not be like super stressed always about like money and income and all that kind of stuff, and just having more freedom around that. Cause I think like as someone that's like newly completely working for myself and not doing like consulting and all that kind of stuff, it is still like a big fear and something that, and everyone tells me that I'm going to deal with it forever, but that's something that I'm hoping to get past and just have more freedom. And also, I'm hoping that in 5 years we'll have our tiny house as our vacation home. We're building a tiny house now, for anyone that doesn't know the background. We're living in that now because we move all the time for the military. And then the goal is that we'll be like on a beach somewhere, so that, we can just go, or if my husband has to work or he's deployed, it's like, then I can just go there and have like a really great space to create and help women and connect and do all that kind of stuff, and just relax. Like I want to just relax more. And then maybe eventually one day have a baby. I don't know yet.
We had a lot of balls up in the air, juggling a lot going on. And I love that you guys are doing the tiny house thing, and that, it just makes sense with the lifestyle that you're currently going through and the changing, and like, why not give it a shot? And I don't know if we talked about it on here or not, but materialistic things, you're like, take them, leave them, change things up and do something new. So it totally makes sense. And I love that you're doing that. I cannot wait to hear more about it and see it and all of your journey with that. So where can everyone connect with you, Amanda?
So you can go to my website, which is yournontoxiclife.com. I also have an Instagram account. It's at Amanda Montalvo RD. It looks like it's all one big word, but that's okay. And then I'm on Facebook too. Instagram is probably like in my website, probably the best way to connect with me. I do have a Facebook group. It's free, non-toxic living, female health, all that kind of stuff. And the links for that are all on my website. But yeah, I would say those are great places. I post a lot of really awesome stuff on Instagram. I do lots of stories. Lots of it's like educational and inspirational. And I'm trying to show more like behind the scenes in real life, because I think people think that everyone has it all together, and I'm like, they do not, for sure. But yeah, I would love to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone loves real life, right? We're all real. And I think that's what people love. That's why people love stories. They eat that up because it's your real life. You're recording yourself, and it gets you out of your comfort zone too. That's the other thing, is that starting little. Did you start doing stories a while ago, like before? as you were like getting out of your comfort zone with video? Is that kind of how you started with that?
Yeah, I did like Facebook Lives first because they were only in my group, so I felt much more comfortable because it's like most of them were my clients or women that I had known. So I
Yeah.
wasn't really scared. I knew who I was talking to, right? And then when I started with stories, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna act like I'm talking to one of my sisters. I have two
Yeah.
sisters. And then the more that people like reach out to you and stuff and ask you questions, you're like, okay, I'm actually serving a purpose on here, right? I'm actually talking to someone, although it can be hard because it's like we're behind a screen and,
Yeah.
people can say mean things online and stuff, or just not say anything at all. Some people just watch and that's totally fine. Sometimes you're like, is anyone listening? Does anyone like what I'm saying? So I try to ask more now, like you can do the questions, which is really cool, and just get more feedback. But yeah, the stories are definitely but now you can retake them, they're not just like live. So you just know when you're watching someone's stories, that's probably the 10th take that they've done of it.
It's a very good point. I did that earlier on my Instagram. I took like 3 takes. I'm like, we're just going to do that one more time.
Yeah. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, so great. Okay, so I've been asking people, what is the last thing that you would want to leave everyone with? Your last or bit of knowledge that you want to leave everyone with around fear and overcoming them?
I would say I've been thinking a lot about like, I've heard this, it's like an analogy of like having an inner voice lately. I've heard like a few people talk about this in a different way, but I think if you think about, we all have this like inner voice or like a gut feeling, some subconscious like notification from your body. We all have it. And I think a lot of times we ignore it because we're thinking about societal standards or we worry about like self-doubt that comes up. If you just try on a daily basis to start listening to that a little bit more, because I mean, you hear it all the time. You hear it when you're like, should I get out of bed or should I like sleep for a little bit longer? Or like, should I go to the gym right now or should I not? Or like little things. So it's like, it doesn't have to be some big monumental decision that you're making. I would say start listening to that inner voice on a regular basis. And then that will get stronger and stronger. And it'll allow you to be like, listen, like no one knows me like I do. I know what's best for my future or like your health or whatever it is that you're working on. And then that'll just make it so much easier when you're trying to get past those fears and when things come up, because you'll have that really strong intuition and inner voice and gut feeling that you can trust.
Awesome. I love it. So I wanted to ask one more thing, just so that everyone knows. What exactly is a dietitian?
Okay, so a dietitian is basically an expert in nutrition and wellness and when it comes to food. And so I did the traditional route. I went to the University of Connecticut and like got my RD. That's very like Western medicine. It's still using food as medicine, but it's much more like calculated. And so I went back to school and I'm a functional and integrative dietitian. So that means that I use a much more holistic approach. It's still science-based. I'm very like nerdy. I did a lot of research stuff in college. I was on the research team. It was amazing. But I really do have this view that like no one knows your body like you do. And, whole foods really are amazing. Doesn't mean that you have to be obsessive. I'm like so wellness without obsession. Like we can be healthy. We don't need to be crazy. But it's definitely a more functional view. And so I use functional labs with my clients. So like, that's kind of how I differ from like a regular dietitian. I can do lab work. That's how I test hormones and gut and stuff like that, and get much more in depth, but definitely a more holistic approach.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for explaining that a little bit more. I love it. So cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Amanda. I'm so excited for everyone to connect with you on your social media. Go to Instagram, connect with Amanda, check out her website, and get into her group. I'm going to get in her group right now. So thank you very much, Amanda, for your time and coming on the vlog. And I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thank you.